Hello everyone, Troy Miller here for Collier Television, and I'm joined today by Supervisor of Elections for Collier County, Jennifer J. Edwards. And Jennifer, we're here today at your fabulous new facility, and one of the first things we want to talk about before we go inside looking around is the reason for this facility is you're finally in one place. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. For years we have been in 3 different locations across the county, about 6 miles apart. We had our training center out at the Golden Gate Community Park on Santa Barbara, where we train about 800 election workers for every election, and we have 4 staff members out there. And then we had our location at the Government Center, and then we leased space for storage on Mercantile Avenue, and now we're all together. So it's a much more efficient operation, better for our equipment, less handling, less moving, as well as we're all together.
Yeah.
It's a much better utilization of our brain power. We've got great staff, and we can all come together easier and talk about projects and things now.
It makes the logistics of just day-to-day operations so much easier. You have a ton of equipment. We're going to go inside the main building, the administration building, and take a look around in there. And then we're also going to go to your operations building, where people will see just how much equipment it takes to run an election here in Collier County. It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I want to demonstrate to you what we did in the past versus how we are much more efficient now. And as I said, we're much less wear and tear on our equipment, your equipment.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
A huge investment.
The taxpayers' equipment, and every time you have to move electronics like that, you're putting them at risk, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, we're going to start in the administrative facility. Join us inside. It's going to be great. Okay, Jennifer, we're here now in the lobby on the first floor of your new facility, and wow, it's beautiful in here, but tell me what happens here on the first floor.
Well, this is our customer service area, and as you can see, we have smiling faces who are ready and happy to provide assistance to our voters or our residents who are coming in to ask questions, and very important time of the year where people are coming in to request a mail ballot.
Yeah, anything like that where if you want to like update your registration, request mail ballots, anything that you can come in and do that here. This
Right
is
here.
where you would do that, right here in this customer service area.
That's correct. And of course, our phones get busy also. So phone calls are welcome.
Now, also on the first floor here, you have a couple of training facilities. The training rooms, we can walk back this way a little bit, that we don't necessarily need to go all the way in, but the training rooms are for your poll workers. Talk to me about the number of poll workers it takes, for example, like the presidential election this year, big election. How many poll workers do you have out working on something like that?
We train approximately 800 election workers or poll workers for every election, and we'll begin that training in July. And we have several classes every day through that period up until the August election. We also train for early voting, and then we'll do the same thing for the November election.
Now, 800 poll workers, election workers, I imagine there's turnover in that. So not only is there updated training, new procedures to learn, I imagine you have new people coming in all the time.
We sure do, and in the August election especially, because as you all know, a lot of our folks that live here go up north in the summer. So they may not be available for the August election, so we are training new people all the time. We will be having orientations this week, and we do those monthly. And we invite anyone who's interested to please come out to one of our orientations.
You've got a wonderful training staff. Did you want to take a minute to mention who they are and what they do?
Well, we have Roger Munns, who's been with us for a number of years, and he's outstanding. He's our director. And we have Kevin, who works with Roger in the training, and Kevin specifically manages the early voting portion and the training for that. And then we have Trish, whom you've met, who is our communications coordinator, and she puts so much good information out to the public through social media as well as on our website. And then we have Heather, and Heather is our outreach coordinator, and she's the one who is responsible for having our booths out at every event possible to register voters and ask questions.
So when you see people out from the supervisor elections helping you understand what you need to do to be eligible to vote, it's the training staff usually and the community outreach staff here from supervisor elections. Great first floor. We're going to go up to the second floor. We'll meet you up there. Okay, we're here now on the second floor. A lot goes on up here. We're actually in a conference room or public meeting room, and you can see through behind us. That's actually the tabulation room, correct? Where votes are tabulated?
That's correct.
So
That's
on election
where,
night, that's the most important room in the county.
well, and on election night, all the polling locations, we have 60 across the county, they modem the results when they close the polls on election night from their individual polling locations to that room. And prior to that, though, our staff can begin 15 days before Election Day tabulating the mail-in ballots. So that is the tabulation room, and those larger machines are the high-speed scanners for tabulating paper ballots.
Now, the public meeting room we're in now will also be used for like your canvassing board meetings, correct? Explain in as few words as you can, what does the canvassing board do?
Each county has a canvassing board that is made up of a county judge who is the chair, a county commissioner or appointed citizen, as well as supervisor of elections. We have very specific responsibilities, and those begin with having a public logic and accuracy test, which we will convene in this room. All of our canvassing board meetings will be here. That information is posted on our website. But we are also responsible for canvassing the mail ballots, and people will remember that many times signatures do not match, which is critical. So the canvassing board members review those, and we vote on every one of those, whether to accept or reject those envelopes, and then we would be able to count the ballots possibly.
So if you're voting by mail or absentee, it's critical to fill everything out correctly. We always try to point that out when we talk elections.
That's right.
Now, and speaking of mail-in, we're going to take a little walk here. Also here on the second floor, you have your vote by mail department, and camera's going to go ahead of us a little bit here. And in this room is where people, now I take it these machines here are used to open and then some way help process or sort the mail ballots?
We began here by opening the envelopes, and we have someone sitting in each console, and they actually pull the envelope apart, the machine does, and our staff reaches in and they pull out the secrecy sleeve that contains the ballot, and then they separate those two items are separated. But the most critical thing to point out here is this is the point at which the envelope that has the voter's signature on it is separated from the ballot, to ensure that no one can connect how someone voted back to their envelope.
So there is that privacy maintained even in the mail ballot.
Right,
So that
confidentiality of the ballot.
Confidentiality, that's correct. So that happens here in this room, also on the second floor.
Right.
And also here on the second floor, you have some offices for some of your training staff. You have a phone bank area. We're not going to walk over there to take calls on like election nights from the polling places and so forth. But
Right.
And then on the third floor, of course, is your offices and your administrative staff. But the real hub of activity around here, one of the real advantages of this new building, is the operations center, where you can finally store all of your equipment at once. Why don't we take a walk over and look at that facility, because I think people are going to be surprised just how much equipment it takes to run an election here. Are you ready?
That's a good point.
Let's go.
I am ready.
Jennifer, we're here now in the operations center, and this is incredible. The amount of equipment in this room. And once again, this stuff was stored in several locations before, as opposed to the one great location you have here. And tell me, what all do we have in this room? I mean, there's a lot going on here.
What we have in this room is all the equipment, all the supplies, signs, everything that are needed to conduct an election. And in the past, before we were so fortunate to have this space, we had all of this stuff stored in 3 different locations. And that's why I say you can't really understand the importance of us having this space now, and such improvement in our efficiency, as well as decreasing the wear and tear on our equipment. And for an example, I'd like to show you.
This is great. This is the perfect example, and I'm going to help you a little bit here. This is a scanner. This usually sits right in here, and this is like the ballot collector. The ballots go through the scanner and are collected down in here, correct?
That's correct. So this is an electronic scanner. And then behind me on the wall, we also have our electronic poll books. So both the scanners and the poll books were stored at our location on the county complex.
And have to be climate controlled.
Because it was climate controlled, which this space is now also. So this big ballot box, though, was stored at a lease space on Mercantile Avenue. So to prepare for an election, our staff would prepare the scanners, and then we would have a moving company bring these ballot boxes that are mostly plastic.
And there are a lot of ballot boxes.
A lot of ballot boxes. And there
And a lot of
are
scanners.
145 scanners in ballot boxes. And so what we would do is have these boxes brought from the storage area to our office at the county complex, and that's where we would marry the scanner to its ballot box and seal it, and then the moving company would bring those two pieces that are together now back to the storage unit on Mercantile, because that's where we staged everything to be delivered to the polling location. So it was a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, and then
of
the
our
exact
equipment.
opposite would have to be done. After the election, it all has to be taken apart, separated. And you were talking about your system. I want to get a shot of this because this is great over here. We'll start with this where it says Route 10. And basically why you took them back to where your storage facility was, where it says Route 10, and then underneath that, if I'm correct, are all the polling location numbers, is that right?
That's correct. And we have them staged by the delivery route. And as you said, that's Route 10, and under that is listed the polling locations. That's how the moving company places all the equipment that's staged for those specific polling locations. They load them on the truck by their delivery route, and then they unload them at our polling location, and they actually set up the room so that on Tuesday morning, election morning, when the election workers show up, a lot of that is staged for them already by the moving company, and then they go through their very important procedures to set up the election polling room and greet our voters at 7 a.m. when we're required to open.
Now, and that's one of the things that people always look at after an election is obviously they're always looking at the accuracy and people feeling franchised with their votes and so forth. But speed of results has also become important on you guys lately for some reason. I think we would rather have it right than quick.
Well, that's been my philosophy.
Is this going to help at all in the speed of gathering results and releasing them to the public and to the media?
Not really, because that process is going to be the same. The benefit that we have now that we're all together is that before, at our training center on Santa Barbara is where we have our call center. So when the election workers are closing down the polls, if they had a problem, their instructions are and have been to call the training center where we have our call center. And so some of us were at the county complex, some of us were at Santa Barbara training location. So now that element of us being in different locations has gone away. So we can all be together on the second floor of the administration building, and we will all know everything at the same time instead of being on the phone or being texting each other with our questions back and forth. We can all hear the same thing at the same time. That will be more efficient because generally we may have one or two polling locations that is having a challenge modeming their results. And so this way we'll get that call, and management will be together and we'll make that decision as to what's the best path to take to get the results in as quickly as possible.
We've got one other room. The sorting room?
Sorter room.
Let's go look at the sorter room. We'll finish up there. Jennifer, we're entering the sorting room, and it's a very impressive sorting piece of equipment here.
This is a Pitney Bowes sorting machine or piece of equipment, and we've had this since 2006. And we use this for the incoming mail ballots. And we run the mail ballots through here about 3 times. But the first time we run them through, this equipment confirms that it was our ballot and it's a correct election, and it takes an image of the voter's signature through this first pass. And then what our staff does is they place the envelopes back in the mail trays, and they go to their computers, and we have a software that will pull up or show on the screen the signature that was just taken, or the image of the signature that was just taken, as well as the voter's official signature on their voter registration application form, and they compare those. And if it's an easy match, they press one of their keys on their keyboard. But if it's questionable, which is what is of our concern, and we look at every one of these, if it's questionable whether or not that's the voter's signature, then the staff will press another button or key on their keyboard, and then they bring those same envelopes back here, or they're here, stored here, and they run those back through this sorter, and the sorter will outsource those that had questionable signatures.
So when you say outsource, it sources them to a different area than the other ballots, and those those outsourced ballots where they're questionable, those then go before the canvassing board we spoke about earlier, correct?
Correct, at the public meeting for the canvassing board over in the administration building. And we vote on those. There are 3 votes, so we vote on whether to accept or reject, and sometimes it's a 2-to-1, so it's very fair.
Yes. And it's the fairest way to do it. It's been set up and it's been done that way for years. We might want to point out, we're here at a new building, but that procedure not new at all. It's governed by laws. So.
And then we have, behind us, we have these cages, and these are the cages that the ballots are stored in. They're always under lock and key in a cage with a special lock that only a few staff members have access to the keys to be able to unlock them.
And what people need to remember, that they're stored because these are what we're talking about, like mail ballots and early ballots and that kind of stuff, and they come in before the election, correct?
Correct.
And they don't, and you can't count them before the election. Well, or when can you start tabulating them?
We begin tabulating the mail ballots 15 days before Election Day, but we don't know the results. The results are stored electronically, and but of course election law requires us to release the results of the early voting as well as the mail ballots by 7:30. We like to get them out a little before that, but between 7 and 7:30 on election night we will release the results of early voting and mail ballot voting.
And with the increased popularity of mail balloting and early voting, that's turning out to be a larger and larger chunk of the electorate voting each year, isn't it? Or am I wrong on that?
You're absolutely correct. A third of our voters vote by mail, a third vote early, and a third vote on Election Day. And of course, we use all the data that we can analyze to prepare our voters or our workers on Election Day to know what they can anticipate at the polling location on Election Day. But right now, our staff is entering mail ballot requests, and we have about 45,000 requests already for the primary and the general election.
Wow, outstanding. Jennifer, I want to thank you for your time today and taking us through your beautiful facility here. Thank goodness you're all in one place now. It's going to be a lot of less wear and tear on your equipment, the taxpayers' equipment that we use to cast our votes every year. Thank you for the tour.
Well, thank you for being here. We are so fortunate and thankful to have this space and appreciate it so much. Thank you, county commissioners. Thank you, taxpayers. And please come visit us. We're going to have an open house on July the 14th, and we will have that advertised. And we invite people, come see us. We'd love to have you.